September 12, 1983, Wyoming, Ohio, an exclusive suburb of Cincinnati. Between 6:45 and 7:30 p.m., 59-year-old Dorotheairwin was brutally murdered in her home. Investigators suspected that it had been a contract killing. One of the subjects of the investigation was Dorothea's oldest son, John James Irwin. Despite numerous requests, Irwin flatly refused to cooperate with the police. He is still wanted for questioning. Authorities consider 38-year-old John Irwin to be one of the most cunning, ruthless, and elusive criminals that they've ever encountered. During the past 25 years, Irwin has been charged with over a dozen felonies and has escaped from 4 different correctional institutions. He is currently wanted by several state and federal law enforcement agencies. But John Irwin does have a weakness: money, in particular, other people's money. In 1972, John James Irwin was convicted for embezzlement and escape. He received a 7 to 20-year sentence and was incarcerated at the state prison in Lebanon, Ohio.
We had him there a relatively short period of time when he got involved with some type of scheme in which he claimed that he was supposed to assist his mother in having his father killed. And shortly after that, he escaped, much to our embarrassment.
At Lebanon, Irwin was made a file clerk in one of the prison offices. It was just the opportunity he needed. He stole blank transfer documents and then forged a gate pass. The pass allowed Irwin free access to the minimum security area of the prison.
Step to the door.
On December 17, 1973, armed with a forged pass, John Irwin calmly and coolly checked himself out of the Lebanon prison. Over the next 22 months, Irwin traveled the world, orchestrating fraud schemes at nearly every stop.
He went into Mexico and Canada and Costa Rica, where he practiced law and got involved in a number of land schemes, Northern Africa, the Mediterranean area, Sweden. And as he made his travels around the world, he occasionally would call me. He would call me collect, and I usually accepted those calls because I wanted to know where he was, and it was an effort to try to convince him to give up. And that eventually worked because in 1975, in October of 1975, he offered to surrender in Mexico.
At the time of his surrender, Irwin was carrying passports from 4 different countries. In 1976, he was transferred to a prison in Texas. In 1979, he received an early release for good behavior.
After John Irwin was released from prison, he moved to Naples, Florida, where his grandmother resided. And he began several business ventures in Naples area, including 2 cab companies and a chemical company.
Grandma, by your signing this agreement to allow me to co-sign on your account, I'm going to make your money grow much faster than it's growing in the bank.
Irwin eventually persuaded his wealthy grandmother, Margaret Hilberg, to invest in his enterprises.
But I paid for it.
Irwin also convinced Margaret to make him co-signer on all of her bank accounts.
John, your grandpa and I worked real hard to get all this money together.
As co-signer, Irwin now had access to over $500,000.
Believe me, I wouldn't jeopardize your money for a moment. You know I love you, man.
I know you would.
It appeared that Mr. Irwin, sometime in 1983, began to take money from those accounts, and sources close to the investigation in the family indicated there was some personal problems between Mr. Irwin and his mother and grandmother.
I'm not interested in making money on her money. I'm helping her make money with her money.
John is
just as I could help you make money with your money.
Help me how? What do you know about finances? Help me how?
I know how to make money.
Dorothea Irwin was apparently suspicious of her son's business dealings and did not trust him with the handling of his grandmother's money.
What do you want me to do?
Sell the house. I want you to go up there, sell the house, get the money out. We can put that money to work.
Incredibly, despite her misgivings, Dorothea gave in to John's relentless insistence that she sell the family home in Wyoming, Ohio.
I'm sure after you've thought about it, you'll realize I'm right. I wouldn't hurt my family.
Mrs. Irwin returned to Wyoming, Ohio, in August of 1983 and placed her home on the market for sale.
Oddly, just a few days after she arrived in Ohio, Dorotheairwin received a phone call from a man who claimed he wanted to buy the house.
Hi. Come on in.
This mysterious caller said that he had seen the swimming pool in the backyard and also had noticed a for sale sign, neither of which should have been known at that time because the swimming pool was not visible from the street and there was no for sale sign in the yard.
Within 45 minutes, Dorotheairwin was dead. She had been stabbed and slashed repeatedly in the head, chest, and back.
Prior to her death, Dorotheairwin was able to scrawl down crucial information on an envelope that was retrieved by police at the crime scene. This information, which we cannot comment on, is key to the possible identity of the killer or killers who are still at large. During the conduction of the investigation by the Wyoming, Ohio authorities, Mr. Irwin refused to return to Cincinnati area for questioning and declined the offer to take a polygraph examination concerning his knowledge of this incident.
Dorothea's estate was worth over $1 million. John Irwin was entitled to 1/3 of these assets. Irwin did not return to Ohio for his mother's funeral.
Nice to see you again. How are you?
Fine, how you
In fact, Irwin was busy laying the groundwork for one of his most ingenious and lucrative schemes.
Look at your financial statements, and all three companies seem to be very profitable, and we're very anxious to help you.
Good. Thank you very much. You know, I've been doing business here in Naples for quite some time.
Mr. Irwin is a very charismatic individual, and because of this charisma and charm, he was able to persuade bank officers to extend a $500,000 loan based solely upon his signature, which was redeposited into a certificate of deposit.
I've taken the liberty of filling out all the paperwork for you, and all we need is your signature, and we can
Great. I have a pen right here.
take care of this today.
The bank probably felt their interests were protected because the funds never actually left the bank. They were immediately redeposited into an account, and a hold was placed on that account so that those funds could not be withdrawn.
Pleasure to do business with you.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
He went to a credit card company and applied for an extension on his current credit card to include a credit line of up to $500,000. The credit card company called the bank to verify sufficient funds were on deposit. And when that verification was received, the extension was granted, enabling Mr. Irwin to purchase whatever he needed.
And as you can see, they're quite attractive.
It's a beautiful, beautiful collection. Each one is a separate prize.
Yes, sir.
In April of 1984, John Irwin had his eye on gold coins.
Well, it's a small purchase, but I'll take the whole amount.
The entire amount?
The entire amount, $300,000.
Excuse me. And how would you like to pay for that, sir?
Well, you know, I don't walk around with $300,000 on me, but I think you'll be happy with this.
John Irwin convinced the owner to sell him over $300,000 worth of gold based on the credit card.
And Mr. Irwin, here's your copy.
Prior to
Pleasure.
completing the purchase, the store had verified the credit card and obtained an authorization code protecting themselves from any liability. Mr. Irwin was successful in walking out of the mall with over $300,000 worth of gold coins paid for with a worthless credit card.
John Irwin disappeared from the Naples area, but not before he withdrew over $250,000 from his grandmother's bank accounts. A month later, John Irwin's grandmother, Margaret Hilberg, died of a heart attack.
When Mr. Irwin's grandmother died in May of 1984, she died with the knowledge that her funds had been taken by her grandson, and she was virtually a broken woman at the time of her death.
After leaving Naples, Florida, Irwin continued to successfully orchestrate fraud and embezzlement schemes throughout the United States. Authorities estimate that between 1984 and 1986, he stole over $1.5 million.
John Irwin is the best example I've ever seen of a criminal who would meet the old adage, a man with a charming smile and a briefcase can steal a lot more money than a man with a mask and a gun.
John James Irwin is 38 years old. He is 6 feet tall and weighs between 165 and 200 pounds. He has green eyes and occasionally wears glasses. Irwin is balding, but may wear a toupee and often has a mustache. Authorities have reason to believe that John James Irwin may have recently been living with his wife somewhere in Southern California. He is considered extremely dangerous and should not be approached. If you have any information regarding John Irwin's whereabouts, please contact the State Attorney's Office in Jacksonville, Florida, your local FBI office, or call our toll-free number, 1-800-876-5353.